thank you everyone for joining us for our Bay Point Water Workshop. And we would like you to know that we're going to record this presentation and post it on our website, or at least portions of it, and look for even more feedback from folks in Bay Point. And we wanted to start out by introducing everyone. I'll start with the Contra Costa Resource Conservation staff. I'm Lisa Anich. I'm a Watershed Conservation Manager.
I am Elisa Robinson, also a Watershed Conservation Manager. Thanks for joining us this evening.
My name is Daniel Correa. I'm one of the new Eco-Steward Conservation Technicians.
So that's our three RCD presenters. And then we are very pleased that John Steer from Contra Costa County's Watershed Program has joined us to talk about some projects that his organization has identified. John, if you want to just introduce yourself.
Yes, hi, John Steer. As Lisa mentioned, I'm Watershed Planner for Contra Costa County Public Works Department Watershed Program. And looking forward to being here tonight.
Thank you for joining us. I believe everyone is familiar, at least acquainted with Contra Costa Resource Conservation District, but just going to say a few words about that. Remind people we are a non-regulatory special district. We work throughout Contra Costa County, but we are not part of the county government. We're a different sort of an agency. And that resource conservation districts were established to help farmers conserve soil and water back in the Dust Bowl era. And while we still work with agricultural producers, we also have programs to help community organizations meet their goals to protect the environment and natural resources. And so tonight's meeting is part of our work with local communities. This is our agenda for tonight. And I'm going to start out by briefly explaining what a water needs assessment is, which is what we've been working on. And we'll share what we've learned specifically about the Bay Point community and their water related priorities. And then next we'll introduce some projects that we've identified so far to address local water needs. And at the end of the meeting, we'll open up the conversation to everyone and invite you to share your opinions and your priorities and additional ideas for projects. And please keep in mind that tonight's meeting is really an introduction, and there will be more opportunities, and we'll be doing more outreach and involving more people from Bay Point, but we're very grateful for y'all to being here to sort of start us off for this phase of our project.
And we have one more person joining us, two more people joining us.
Okay,
I'll give them a second to get in and be able to hear us before we move forward.
Then I'll let you and Dan handle that. I actually can't see that right now because I've got the screen
sharing. Okay.
So anyway, I'll let you continue.
Okay. So let me get to the point where I can see what you're sharing again. Okay, I'm up. So I think you're all somewhat familiar with this project and the goals that we have. But so just a quick reminder, the goal of this is to encourage and ensure that underrepresented communities have a seat at the table. Next slide. And to have an equal chance to receive funding for water projects from the California Department of Water Resources. Next slide. And then just a less formal way of saying that is that the Prop 1 water bond was approved by California in 2014. And in this process, the Department of Water Resources recognized that with the past funding rounds, it was kind of disproportionately going towards communities that were more well-funded and were able to reach out to them and start to develop these projects and ideas that address the needs of their community. While they weren't hearing as much from disadvantaged communities or communities that didn't have the high of income level coming in. So to address this discrepancy, they developed the Dakti Program, which stands for Disadvantaged Communities and Tribal Involvement Program. So just really to bring everybody to the table to have opportunity to fix water problems in their community. And yeah, the program is designed to fully engage community members in the process, help identify water issues, and then to develop projects that could potentially receive funding from VW Park. Oh, you're muted.
Okay. So, and while Contra Costa RCD is focusing on Bay Point, Pittsburgh, and Antioch, there are other organizations doing similar work throughout California. And here in the Bay Area, we're working alongside several other organizations, and they've all conducted water needs assessments in their own communities. And we are finding that our communities have a lot in common. So how do we go about assessing our water needs? Over the past 2 years, we've contacted about 300 people in Eastern Contra Costa County to gather their opinions using surveys and listening sessions. And we collected surveys at several public events, and the survey was also available on our website in Spanish and English. And we got about 150 community members from Bay Point, Pittsburgh, and Antioch to participate in a listening session or complete a survey, with about 40 of those participants being from Bay Point. So where we are in the project now is we are identifying and advancing the projects that meet those needs. Okay, so this is a slide that shows Bay Point and water-related needs, what we heard about most often. Many people were dissatisfied with taste of tap water, or they were uncertain about tap water safety. And those concerns about tap water taste and safety overlap with their concerns about the infrastructure that's delivering tap water to their homes. And in addition, people have concerns about tap water, the plumbing within their homes and what they can do to ensure that that's safe. So that's something we heard a lot about. We also did hear a lot of complaints about litter, trash in the creeks, trash in drainage channels that carry stormwater from streets to the Delta. And many people also told us that they value parks and walking trails in Bay Point. We heard that was really strong support for improving the appearance of the streets and other public areas by adding trees and landscaping. What kinds of projects are we talking about to address these water needs? Well, tonight we're going to introduce a few of them. And please remember, this is an introduction. We'll provide more information about these projects in the future. And we are still definitely interested in ideas for additional projects. So as we mentioned that tap water issues were a big concern, and one project that could help address those concerns will start this summer. So Prop 1 Water Bond provides some funding for a limited number of free laboratory analyses of tap water within these Bay Area communities where we are working, we and our partners are working. So that includes residents of Bay Point, Pittsburgh, and Antioch. And so if you live in Bay Point, Pittsburgh, or Antioch, and you're interested in having your home tap water tested, please contact us. I'm not going to say a lot about this program right now, but I just wanted to make sure you know that that's coming this summer, and we're very excited about getting the word out about this.
We actually have a link to a sign-up sheet. If anybody is interested, I'll put that in the chat. And you can put in your name, email, and we'll add you to the interest list.
Okay, now, and the other type of project that addresses some of these needs are green infrastructure projects. And that's why we're fortunate to have John Steer with us tonight to talk about some of the possibilities that he has been and his agency has been looking at.
Introduce myself again. I'm John Steer, watershed planner for the Contra Costa Public Works Department. So the wonderful thing about green infrastructure is that it can function for serve many purposes. Has many benefits. It can obviously serve as a stormwater filtration. It can serve to provide other benefits such as green streets, a sense of connection to the environment for people who live there, sense of placemaking, and can not only tie the community together. And let's actually, can you advance this? Very good. Those are some examples of green infrastructure right there. I'll say more about that in a moment. Next slide, please. The one on the right there in El Cerrito, right by the BART tracks, really looks like a park, doesn't it? It is what green infrastructure is essentially is a kind of like biomimicry, using engineered wetlands to detain, retain water before it goes into the soil, and then if it needs to, go through pipes. But really the idea is to filter and to treat stormwater before it goes to the creeks and to the bay. There are some examples identified here, bioretention basins, pervious pavement, infiltration basins, green roofs, and rainwater gardens. Next slide, please. So the example you see here to the right here, enrichment would be the kind of examples you might see along Willow Pass Road, which will show them examples of potential projects in Bay Point. That this is a bulb out, water will come into it and go into the engineered soil there. And then that water is filtered and conveyed either into the groundwater, or if it's too much water, it will go into a pipe after it's been treated. So it's really working with nature. That's why we see it as an example of biomimicry. So next slide, please. Another example of green infrastructure that's less common, but certainly would be applicable for a couple of the projects here in Bay Point is pervious pavement or porous pavement, which allows water to seep through into the groundwater in gravels below it. Next slide, please. Well, now we're up to the potential projects that could happen as we identified them in the green infrastructure plan for the county. I should mention that the county, about 2.5 years ago, after meeting with the community and various MACs and municipal advisory committees, we approved a green infrastructure plan, as did all the municipalities around Contra Costa, as part of our regional permit with the regarding the Clean Water Act. So what you see here is the development of some of these projects, which I will go further into over the next few minutes here as we go around to look at them. What you see here are the primary examples of where green infrastructure could occur in Central Bay Point. So there's, as you can see, if you look along Willow Pass Road, many of them are along that. There's four of them that really are essentially bulb outs of cross intersections of other streets like Olives Avenue, Marin Avenue, Ennis Avenue, and Cleland Drive, where it's also going to be combined with street trees along the south side of the street. But we'll be primarily focusing on the green infrastructure, but they can readily be combined both in reality as something called filtera units, where you could actually have a tree serving like green infrastructure to, through its roots, filter the stormwater in a basin. Or it could be regular street trees with a bulb out or some other kind of green infrastructure feature. Let's go to the next slide, please. We'll look at the projects in more detail. So the first one we want to show here is one of the bulb outs examples that would be on Alves Lane at Willow Pass Road, to the kind of west side of the central area here. What you're seeing in blue there is essentially the area that be collecting water. So for about 300 feet uphill, it would be collected into that bulb out shown in the light green. And some of the, you may know just on the right side, there's benefits and constraints. You might call them benefits and barriers, or opportunities and barriers. So obviously what are called benefits and street greening and improving the pedestrian experience around that portion of what you might refer as the downtown or central portion of Bay Point. Next slide. So Ambrose Park has a number of opportunities in it as far as both green infrastructure features as well as urban greening features. You see from the overview here that it combines the area is both to the north is the community center, and to the back is Ambrose Park, and you can see the very far south of it abuts Bel Air or Delta de Anza Regional Trail. So here the opportunity is you can, besides the green infrastructure, which would be on a swale coming off of Willow Pass Road to the north, you can see that in the purple drainage area, and the swale will be next to that to the left. And then next to that would be could be a trail connecting Willow Pass Road directly to the Delta de Anza Trail to the south. I understand from Cece that there may have been an informal trail in the past, but it'd be great to have that as part of the park, as part of connecting the downtown to the trail at the south end. Also, since there's a considerable drainage area, as shown here in kind of a gray area of the playground and park going into the parking lot, that area, I understand from talking to members of the Ambrose Park District, often floods that parking lot. So a bioretention basin would be a good way to collect that water and convey it. So it also, as you can see, besides having water quality benefits, help reduce flooding or prevent flooding on the parking lot. There's also opportunities for permeable pavement around the corner from that near the entrance to the community center. That's shown in a mustard colored permeable pavement, mustard colored block there. Let's continue, please. There's a Nuta Park on the north end of this or the upper end of this photograph. Nuta Park is what you're seeing is the bioretention basin that would be shown. The whole park covers almost a half block there against Willow Pass Road. So the idea would be to take a portion of the western end of it, not obviously overlapping with the existing informal soccer field, but to create a bioretention basin that would collect stormwater from the entire neighborhood around it, starting coming down on Solano Avenue, primarily. And that would be, it probably was even built years ago as a detention basin for floodwaters, but obviously it has not served that function. So converting a portion of it into a bioretention basin to collect and treat stormwater, as well as provide other park features, could be designed in a way to really make it an enhancement of the park, which currently has no trees, except for a couple on the east side, and no vegetation besides grass. So I think it'd be a way of articulating or creating variation in the park in terms of vegetation to create more visual interest and a more greater sense of place. Next slide, please. So here we have an example of a park, probably a future park facility. I don't know exactly yet. I have yet to speak with staff of Ambrose Park District about what the future uses of this plot is, but it's apparently owned by the Ambrose Park and Recreation District, the whole parcel there. So taking one corner of it, as you see here, the light green proposed bioretention basin location will collect water coming down clear land. You can see there's the two different colors of the drainage areas. There's purple on one side for bulb out, and on the east side is the drainage area in teal that would be collected by the basin there at Clearland. So as with Ambrose, would have water quality benefits, street greening, pedestrian improvement experience, and also in this case, provide some visual interest and improve the experience being at an existing bus stop. Constraints, obviously, there would be issues there with potential traffic constraints, not constrained here, but the partner here would have to be the Ambrosia Park Recreation District. Next slide, please. You can go on, Lisa, thanks. Here's another example of a street bulb out or cross street bulb out from Willow Pass Road. Here, this one would be at Ennis Avenue. This one, there's an existing bus stop as shown there, a little purple dot, combining a bioretention basin with that existing bus stop on apparently it's next to a parking lot of fast food. So it actually even provide maybe a little parklet perhaps even too, where it could be a place to sit, place even to have food. One of the nice things about when they're maintained properly, bioretention basins can function as full trash capture devices. So that would also be a benefit there as well. We would have, one constraint would be coordinating with the parcel owner because that bulb, that bioretention basin would probably be on a portion of their property, which is currently unused. It's a gravel area, kind of not even part of the parking lot that's there. Next slide, please. So, well, that actually takes us to the end of the slideshow. Let's, before we, let's move to the next slide just so we go kind of show all the parts in a row. So now to open it up to everyone to provide their thoughts about any of these projects and comments as to preferences. Well, at the end of this, by the way, we'll have a poll as to preferences as on which of these are preferred, highest ranked, and so forth, as well as the interest in urban greening.
Let me interject really quick. We're going to do the community feedback in a couple of slides. But if they have questions, this is a great time to ask questions about any other projects.
Excellent.
I have a question. This is Roxana for John. Hi. My question is, beyond Central Bay Point, are there any plans to extend, like if this goes really well, is there any plan to extend the green infrastructure into more of the western side of Bay Point? Since Willow Pass Road is obviously one of, it's like the main commerce street, but the other one is also Port Chicago Highway. And I see a lot of people walking, you know, with strollers and, you know, bicycles, walking along Port Chicago Highway to, you know, just get groceries and things like that. So are there, do you know of any other plans to extend the green infrastructure out into like the Port Chicago Highway area?
Well, all we can really refer to is the green infrastructure plan that County Board of Supervisors approved back in August of 2019. These projects here, or at least elements of them, were shown in that. The only other one that's shown as a potential project is near Shore Acres, and could be the flood control basin that's near, that is a portion near Pacific Avenue. Beyond that, it's really up to the community at large, and certainly I think urban greening opportunities are extensive and not even addressed in the green infrastructure plan per se. But no doubt, given that this is a substantial urban heat island effect in Bay Point, establishing more opportunities for street trees is very, very important.
Then I can interject as well. We are open to other projects that are not just presented tonight, but we can always work on developing them under the work that the RCD is doing with DWR. So we're not ruling anything out. We're looking at all the possible ideas within Bay Point, Pittsburgh, and Antioch. So in the next couple slides, we'll go into that a little bit further. Any other questions?
Actually, if I could just interject one of the things on the topic of future planning, and that goes beyond what we see here. A comparable example of what we're doing here is in North Richmond, where the North Richmond Watershed Connections project is currently being rolled out or under a close to $1 million Prop 1 grant with the Coastal Conservancy. So, and it involves some of the elements you see here, but beyond that, it also includes features such as mosaic on trash cans and wayfinding, which means ways of following safe routes to school. In that case, it's not. They have a different elementary school called Verde School there. So it really involves quite a few features that have nothing to do with what we're looking at here. So it's really up to the community and the RCD and working with the community to establish what they would like to see altogether that maybe go beyond the purview of this.
Okay, if we don't have any more questions right now, we're going to move along to the next part of this presentation. And then, okay, a question
So
from Eric, while you switch over, we can hopefully answer this question from Eric Sanchez. When these projects are first deployed, they look fantastic. However, we are in an unincorporated region of Contra Costa. As you see now, the maintenance support for our community is lacking. Oh, just a comment. Okay. So maybe the crux of this is getting into maintenance, how these will be maintained over time.
Mm-hmm. So if I could just say one thing about that. This is very much on our minds. In fact, right now, the model we have emerging in North Richmond is working with the existing community groups or existing nonprofits. There, it's that working with the Watershed Project and Urban Tilth to maintain the infrastructure that's being established there for at least a period of 10 years. Looking for the future, though, it's going to require some creativity and innovation. I mean, I'm holding up this, if you look at maybe feature my screen here, Community Climate Resilience District. This is a feasibility study that was done, just finished last week by a graduate student at Cal to basically create a green benefits district to allow for essentially the community to be engaged, to be involved in the maintenance of street trees and green infrastructure through a kind of community facilities district. I don't want to go into detail about how they'll be set up because it has to be essentially brought in by enough residents in the community say that we would like to vote for this to happen. And that would actually allow potentially for the RCD in this case, or other nonprofits to have their workers be essentially working under contract to maintain the facilities that would be established in Bay Point. But I so agree that nothing should be undertaken here without having some understanding and provision for the maintenance going forward.
So John, you mentioned Urban Tilth. Yes. And so is it their Eco Steward program that, or not Eco Steward, that's us, their Watershed Steward program that is maintaining these? So Eric had a follow-up question to this. And Jasmine, I see your questions as well. I'm gonna get to those. But Eric had a follow-up question about job training. And that's the great thing about Urban Tilth and their Watershed Steward program. It's actually taking people that live in the community and teaching them about jobs in the environmental parks field and giving them hands-on experience to continue, hopefully, and make these connections with agencies that could potentially hire them down the road. Because they work with the Park District, they work with the Flood Control District, and so they're making great connections. I think I'm a big fan of the Urban Tilth setup. Yeah. And Jasmine, you asked, have you looked into sunken roundabouts to serve as bioretention of street runoff and street barriers? Have you considered sunken roundabouts for fire retention?
No, we haven't.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't think it would work on Willow Pass Road because Willow Pass Road tends to be higher than the south side, and so there wouldn't be that much of an area to collect water there. Water would tend to go to the south side. That's why I have the bulb outs there. So it wouldn't probably make sense. And Willow Pass Road is a pretty busy thoroughfare too.
But I will add it to our list of other possibilities.
Yeah, on the streets perhaps.
Yep. All right.
I should also mention here that there was an additional project. I didn't talk about it, but there is clearly a project which wasn't shown very well of a little parklet at the intersection of Bailey Road and the Bel Air Trail, and that could be a wonderful little feature, but it wouldn't be a very good green infrastructure feature just because it wouldn't collect much water. And there's also a project at Bel Air School, which is it would be a green infrastructure project, but it requires coordination with the school district to make it happen.
Okay, we're going to go on to the next part of the presentation. Thank you, John. Mm-hmm. I think it was a great understanding and baseline of what these GI projects in Bay Point could look like. This is just quickly how these projects are addressing the needs that we identified in our needs assessment. So the first two, tap water infrastructure, and old pipes. The tap water quality testing program, which Lisa mentioned previously, would help to identify if there are issues, where they are, whether it's in the infrastructure, whether it's in maybe the pipes leading to the house or something else. And then the GI projects that John mentioned would actually address those other issues of trash and stormwater, and then streets, trails, and landscaping, the community improvements. And so just wanted to tie that together so we're very clear on how we are addressing the issues that the community has identified. All right, now on to the really fun stuff of, please, if you don't mind, tell us what you think of the GI projects that we talked about. And Jasmine, just introduce yourself in the chat. So hopefully you guys have it open and can view it. Jasmine, thank you for joining us. I know that you're connected to Ambrose as well. So feel free to let me know thoughts, opinions. If there's one project that you like more than the other, or we can even rank this, we're here to collect all information that you're willing to give. And so looking at the ones that John talked about, we kind of broke it down into the Ambrosia Park and Community Center, Anuda Park, Bel Air Elementary School, and then we kind of clumped all of the projects along Willow Pass together as just general improvements along Willow Pass. So the floor is open. Feel free to speak up. Let me know what you like.
And why you like it too.
Peer pressure.
I could go first.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, might as well since I got peer pressure the last time. I really think this is a great idea and project. And I'm excited that anytime there's talk about protecting the environment and making sure that water conservation is key as well. Especially in this area where has a history of a long time of pollution at our delta and in the surrounding areas. So thank you so much for this. And I just wanted to echo, I guess, one of the concern that Eric brought up too about maintenance. I'm just kind of curious on how that's going to play out too, because as Eric mentioned, we are in an unincorporated area. So it's a little hard to kind of rely on the county sometimes to help with some stuff. And, we know that they're very busy and they have a whole county to worry about. But I, definitely curious about that part. And also I wanted to echo the part, the comment that Roxana made about extending this hopefully in the future to other areas of Bay Point. She mentioned Port Chicago as one area for sure. I think that's a great idea to kind of explore that. And I'd also invite possibly exploring east of Bailey Road on the other side of Willow Pass Road, because there is definitely a population there and a lot of people walk through that area a lot. Could be useful to have some shade, especially between the Bailey Road block all the way to basically till Pittsburgh. It's pretty much no shade in those areas, as well as also just being conscious of collecting some of the pollutants that are gathered in that area as well. But overall, I think this is a great idea. I think this is super important for us to to start conserving water in this area, but also protecting our environment. And I don't have like the vision to say, hey, I want to see this or I want to see that, because this is all new to me, and this sounds really great and amazing. I did like the idea of just wanted to give kudos of the idea of connecting a trail from on top of Ambrose Recreation Center into the Alves Lane Park. I think that's a great idea as well. I think that'd be super useful for folks who want to connect between parks. But yeah, overall, just really excited to see this, and don't really have any more to add. Thank you.
Okay, one way to think about this is if you had unlimited funding to put money wherever you wanted to, which project would you put it towards first? Because we're looking to prioritize options.
I mean, for me, I think, looking at this, I mean, it's hard to say because I think they're all equally important. But if I'm thinking about like which areas probably like used a lot and which area would probably be the most beneficial, I mean, might be the Ambrose Park at the community center. Okay. That's just my take on it.
Okay. It's all based on what you think from your perspective. That's what we're interested in learning. And Jasmine says that she loves all the bioretention, which is key in reducing pollution and simple giving downhill slope leading to Willow Pass Road. Main suggestion is add more retention spots and/or, I lost it, enlarge retention areas. And from Brent, second idea of planting at schools. I think that Josh said that, focusing on the school, and it also kind of has maintenance built in, which is nice. And then also consider the bioretention areas being vegetated buffers. Yes, it's a good point. Anybody else want to chime in on which projects stand out to you, which should be prioritized? And if you have any other ideas, that's actually our next slide is, do you have any other options that you want? Wait, that's not the next slide. We'll get there. That you would like to see?
I think all of the projects sound fantastic. So I just, yeah, again, like this, any kind of help is super appreciated. I think from my perspective and just kind of like being there, I think having more shade on the streets is probably like, for me, would be the most priority. Just because I see so many people walking everywhere or riding their bicycle. And so I think to try to touch the most people, and especially those are the people who probably need the most help anyways, because they don't, have access to a car. So I would probably put that project first in terms of like higher priority. Again, I think they're all fantastic and they would all be great to implement anyways. My second one would probably be the Ambrose one, connecting to the trail, because I think having that connection to the D'Anzio Trail, I see a lot of people on that trail as well. If there was even a way to put trees on the trail, I think that would go really far and be able to hold water as well. Because when you have more vegetation, that puts more water in the ground. So more trees on the trail, you're holding more water there as well. I would even love to see more trees like along the canal area to kind of cool off the keep water evaporation from being an issue, because it does get so hot over there. There's so little shade and not a lot of like structures to kind of shade the canal. So I mean, you're probably in the summer, it is cooler in Bay Point than in other areas in the summer, but you're probably still losing a lot of water daily just from evaporation.
Thank you. And I think that's a good idea.
I don't know if you guys,
I don't know if you guys have seen the projects that they've tried with like putting balls on top of the canal to kind of reduce evaporation and limit the solar insolation. It's a lot of different options there, but trees are always, I'm a fan of trees. In the chat, we had Eric say that he would prioritize water catchment, most impactful. And it might also be good to have an information placard on which native plants were selected for the area and why it's most suitable for the climate and soil location. So a push for native plants, which is always wonderful, and information to help spread the word about the benefits of them and function. I like that idea, Eric. Lisa, sorry, I've been rambling. You were trying to say something.
Thank you. Sorry, it's when I'm sharing the screen, it's always harder to find the right button. I was just going to say that the canal one potentially could have a connection with Department of Water Resources. So I have no idea, but it's an interesting thing to explore. So anyway, that's all I was going to say.
And depending on the right of way along the trail too, that could possibly tie in.
Yeah, and I guess I was going to say we are looking for projects eligible for Prop 1 funding, but we're thinking bigger than that. We're trying to think whether it's Prop 1 or whether it's other grants, how are we going to get to what, we're trying to think of it all at the same time. So I just wanted to say that it's not limited to asking for projects that Department of Water Resources would fund.
And Matt, I'm sorry, I missed your hand the first time, but I see it now. Go right ahead.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, I just, all looks really cool. I just highlight the comments in the chat about, targeting that freeway. I've been driving from Stockton to Richmond for 12 years. I should probably atone for the pollution I've contributed here in Pittsburgh Bay Point. But, that freeway is a killer. So anything you can do to knock down that dust and that exhaust while addressing the goals of this project would be huge. And then I would just highlight an error that I made for several years, which was planting trees, even natives, that felt like they belonged in the Bay Area without anticipating the regional climate shifts we're all going to see. And so, there's a clear corollary for this part of Contra Costa County, and it's, further to the east in places like Stockton and the Central Valley. You're going to be a lot warmer and a lot drier. So species selection, looking in that direction for, the year 2100 would be a wise move. And there's good resources on that. Unfortunately, your Bay Area is going to change a lot.
Already happening, which is very obvious this year, I think. All right, so you guys have already kind of led into this next question that Lisa has up on the PowerPoint, which is how important are street trees to you? I think it's come from everybody that trees are very, very important and necessary for the well-being of community members, especially ones that don't have vehicles and need to walk. But if there are any other ideas that you'd like to throw out there about trees, we're happy to listen. And also the native species, I heard that too. I wrote that down. And planning for climate change and our, where we're going to be in 50 to 100 years. And actually from Cece, she says that Keller Canyon Mitigation Fund provides money for watering, landscaping along Aurora Road, private public funding with existing major businesses such as Henkel and Shell Catalyst Technologies. So there's funding opportunities when it comes to looking at maintenance of trees, plants, vegetation in our public spaces, public-private spaces. Okay, cool. I see lots of support for trees. So the next question, the next slide, is something that we've kind of already covered. You've thrown out other suggestions as we've gone along. But is there anything else that you would like to add to the conversation? And again, chat or video, it's up to you either way. If I don't see anybody waving at me or turning their camera on, I'm gonna move on to our next slide. So, and it's just circling back to look at the other projects that we've mentioned or that you've mentioned, and the ones that John mentioned as our green infrastructure. Is there anything new that stands out as number one priority that you would throw your money at if you had the opportunity? And if not, if you think that we're good with what we've covered so far, you can give me a thumbs up and I will move us along. Okay. All right, next slide, Lisa. All right, that's it. We managed to keep it to almost an hour. Thank you to all of you for joining us and engaging in this conversation. We'll hang around for a little bit longer if you have questions or comments. I've enjoyed seeing the chat, and I've enjoyed getting your feedback, you know, from the screen. Although hopefully one day we can actually meet in person again. Maybe check out Ambrose or Anuta or some other, see one of these projects in person. And that's it from me. Anybody else want to add anything as we sign off?
Yeah, I would just like to verbalize, in case people weren't seeing the chat. I love Matt Holmes's idea of creating the an ethnobotany component into the garden. I think that's very important, and using native plants and finding like the history behind like what they were used, and you know, a nod to like, you know, actually acknowledging the people who were here before us, you know, because we are on native land as well. So.
I meant to do an acknowledgement at the beginning. Since I just had a whole meeting about properly engaging with our native tribes, but we are in Bay Point is on Miwok land, so acknowledging the original inhabitants and who we're stewarding for now. Anything else, Lisa, Daniel?
No, thank you. Just again, we have in the chat a way to sign up. We also have our emails. Get in touch with us. So many great ideas, and this is the beginning. This isn't the end of this conversation. So, again, thank you all for spending your evening with us, and I look forward to a lot of good energy today, and I look forward to making some progress on these things. So, thank you.
And Eric, I see your question in the chat about lawn replacement, and I'm working on a resource guide to help provide information to the community that's actually relevant and useful. So I will make sure that I include that in there. And I know that I had the mailing list option at the top of the chat when we first started. If you want to make sure that you send us your email address there, I will send out the resource guide once I get it all together. It'll also be available on our website, as well as some of the recordings from this meeting. And we are going to have a tap water quality survey launching pretty soon. And that'll be found on our website as well. And yes, I will email you about all of this if you're on the list.
Yes, and also thank you, John, for joining us tonight. So we appreciate you helping us. And
much appreciated to you and Alyssa for hosting tonight.
Thank you.
Great meeting. Right. Thanks again.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great Thursday evening and a great weekend.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.